everybody. Thanks for checking in. Trade to Black. Happy Wednesday. Hump day, midway through the week. Still seeing a ton of interest in this space. Let's take a quick recap on how everything performed today, including some big news out of New York. We want to dive into that. So let's welcome in millennial investor, TDR contributor, Anthony Verrill. Good to see you.
Good to see you. How's it going?
I like that hat.
Yeah, I think it's from the U.S. Open last year or 2 years ago. Wingfoot. It was like a bunch of special edition hats that Nike dropped
2 years ago. Is that Dustin Johnson that won?
I think it was. It was Matt. No, Matt Fitzgerald was last year.
Was it?
It might have been DJ. I don't know. It was a Wingfoot. I liked it so much. I got it in 2 different colors.
Oh, nice.
So
all right.
My fucking desk is full of hats.
Let's welcome in Smarty Pants, lead financial writer, Benjamin A. Smith. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys. How's it going?
It is good. I think for the most day, I think this is a healthy day. Still a lot of interest. We didn't see a lot of stocks up or down. So, Anthony, begin with you. We kind of talked about this yesterday. We saw a sea of red, but it wasn't necessarily a big drop for really much of anything, which was healthy for the industry. Looks like we're maintaining that again today.
Yeah, it's a healthy tape. I mean, there's red. I'm about probably 70-30 red to green.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an okay day for MSOS. Canopy and Aurora got beat up at the end of the day. We didn't see the rally into the close like we did yesterday with Dan coming out and coming out spraying. I mean, he bought a lot of names yesterday. The 100,000 share purchase of AYR was interesting.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, you saw continued strength in New York names today. Columbia Care ended the day up another 10%. I think it popped a circuit breaker, as Ben said in the middle of the day, and that news is obviously resonating.
Yeah. You guys want to dive into that? New York, they're going to open adult use marijuana retail to multi-state operators. This is big. So New York regulators voted Tuesday to allow the state's medical marijuana operators to apply for adult use retail licenses, which means that multi-state operators who years ago snapped up a majority of the state's 10 registered organization permits will enter what observers say will be the largest market on the East Coast. Ben, this is big news.
Yeah, to say the least, this is very big news. Previously, the multi-state operators had to wait 3 years, I think it is, to get into retail. And now it looks like they're going to open it up a lot sooner than that, which is very good, obviously. A lot of obviously this was prompted by the terrible, disastrous rollout where not a lot of access was taking place, and a lot of criminality, illegal dispensaries, which led to product that you didn't know what you were going to get. So it's good to see that the OCM in New York had this reversal and is now putting good policy into play. And of course, it also means that the majority of the multi-state operators who snapped up the licenses a few years ago, now they can finally get in and they don't have to wait for that 3-year period.
What do you think changed their idea, their sentiment on this all, Anthony?
I mean, I think that money talks, bullshit walks. I mean, they obviously filed the lawsuit, but I mean, I'm all for letting the little guy have a chance, but it's not at the expense of tying the other company's hands behind their back. I mean, if you look in Illinois, look in California, look at companies that have had these social equity inclusive programs, by all means, if you can go find a top tier company in any of those markets, go ahead. I don't see them. As far as I'm concerned, every social equity program and social equity applicant has been backed by a rich white guy, which kind of defeats the purpose. But I mean, I think this is long overdue. You saw Axel Barnaby yesterday step down, who was the senior chief of staff and senior policy director. They said that his job there is done. I don't know what the fuck that means exactly, but it's good to see. I think it's long overdue. You're going to have Curaleaf, Columbia Care, Cresco, Acreage be the beneficiaries of this. They've got retail across the board that is already there and in development. And I think it's going to be great to see this market finally open up.
So the New York Medical Cannabis Industry Association represents 8 of the existing licensees. As you said, they include Acreage, Columbia Care, Cresco, Green Thumb, and Curaleaf. Happy day, obviously, for them. I'm sure they're all happy with this news.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy. Granted, they're going to have to go through an application process. They're going to make
Yeah.
them jump through hoops. I think it opens October 4th and it ends sometime in mid-December. But at the same time, it's good. Get through the process, get these doors open, and start making money.
Yeah.
That's going to highly impact their numbers. New York
Now,
is going to be
Anthony,
big.
did you was there any word on whether the $20 million application fee was coming through? I've been trying to look for that because a few months ago when they said
So
that they would allow them in, as you recall, there was a 20 million application fee attached to that.
Yeah.
yeah, I was looking at that as well, and not looking at that, but looking for it as well. I heard that it was going to be reduced to something like 5 million. Either way, I hope it's not 20 million, but it's kind of just like pay the piper and let's get the doors open.
Yeah. Agreed.
Like it's ridiculous, but I'd gladly pay 20 million today than wait 3 years and have to open down the road.
Well, in addition,
That number is going to be negligent by the time this is all said and done.
in addition to money maybe playing a factor, this rollout and how much of a mess this was had to been played a part as well. They needed to get this fixed, is what I'm thinking. No.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
The pressure definitely played a part in that. Definitely, 100%. You could say
Yeah.
money, you could say politics, you could say the lawsuit, all the above for sure. But the public pressure, all you have to do is go on X to see the scrutiny that the New York OCM has been under. It's been relentless, and it hasn't been something that they could explain away, right? So I think that definitely played a part in it, where it was so much pressure from socially that it's like they need to do something to reverse the situation, because it was obviously a bad rollout, and there's nothing that they could do to cover that up. And then obviously with some of the social justice applicants too, they're not happy about it with the slow process that they've been subject to. A lot of talk about not being explained the rules. A lot of talk about ordering supplies and getting things from certain suppliers that have been way above cost and not being explained all the cost involved. So it's just been a mess from not just the rollout and access point of view, but even from the social justice applicants. It seems like in this situation, nobody's happy.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing too. Why do they need it to be explained to them in the first place? If they deserve to be in the market and they deserve to be doing what they're doing, they should be able to figure it out. They should be able to interpret the rules. They should be able to figure it out. They should be able to run their business like it's supposed to, not get handheld throughout the process.
Yeah.
That's what the free market should do, though, right? That's what the free market should do. But when you have to go to certain suppliers and you're not explained the cost by the organization that controls the suppliers, and then you're trying to open up its dispensary and you think you don't know how much it's going to cost, and then the overruns go way above what you think it is. Things like that have been happening in the market. I've been reading about, and it's really sad for a lot of these smaller indie operators who are very undercapitalized. These guys aren't MSOs. They have they're trying to tape and glue this together, right?
That's the thing too. I mean, it's a tough thing to say, but this is a highly capital intensive, regulated, difficult business. This is not an easy business. Yeah, it's easy to grow cannabis, but cultivating, manufacturing, distributing, and retailing is fucking hard. You're running 4 or 5 businesses simultaneously. If somebody from a social equity standpoint has the experience, has the wherewithal, and has the business to do that, go ahead. You should be put in the front of the line and give it every opportunity that you can. But most of these people are not able to run a vertically integrated cannabis business. It is very, very difficult.
John Levine from MaryMed back in April told me that there are some dispensaries they look at where the original owner opened up a dispensary and was not even aware of a 280E tax code. Like, think about that, right?
If you're at that level, I mean, that's just ridiculous, right? Like, if you don't know about 280,
it happens.
You don't deserve to operate at that point. However, there are other applicants who got in thinking that their costs were going to be this, and everything was going to be explained along the process, and end up not being explained. And then there's huge cost overruns, and these guys are trying to get loans, and there's overruns on their costs, and they're trying to get second loans and third loans. So this is, as Anthony said, this is a very highly capital intensive business, especially to start. And when you don't have tons of assets backing you, and you don't know what your cost certainty is, that is a problem. And that's what's going on in New York with a lot of these operators. And they're going to meetings and they're shouting at these regulators. They're going like, what the fuck is going on?
We see
in a lot
more.
of cases.
Let's be real. I mean, their access to capital is limited, and the capital that they probably can go tap is in bed with all the big MSOs. They're going to
Mhm.
simply say, "All right, sorry, we're not interested. Let you crash and burn, and then we're going to come and pick you up for pennies on the dollar." Like, yeah, they're getting every opportunity possible in the front end, but it's a real fucking cold world once you get in operations,
Yeah.
and
Here's
once
the
you run
thought
out of
too.
money.
Here's a thought too. Let me throw this out here. And I always thought that this structure would be something that worked, but I don't know why they don't do it. It would be like, I wonder why the OCM didn't think about a structure where you get the small independent operators, right, to maybe partner with the MSOs, the proven guys, guarantee shelf space like 20% or whatever that number is of decent shelf space in the store. Have those MSOs maybe buy in, a certain stake of the company, a percentage stake, and then have them work together. That way you have the
Oh yeah.
capitalization, you have access to store, you have access to good product, you still get your shelf space for those operators. You're still not wholly owned by that company. You're just a minority stakeholder. They are, and then you make those two work. But that kind of
I think
structure, I think,
that's
would make a lot of sense.
I think that's a fantastic idea. I mean, I've said this a couple of times that these should be to add to that. I mean, I think that it should be an accelerator slash incubator model. I mean, these aren't necessarily people that know how to run businesses. Set up an accelerator, set up an incubator. I guarantee you, if you went to the larger MSOs and said, guys, let's start a venture fund that's partnered with the OCM. Each of you throw 15 million, $20 million in it a piece. You're then going to be levered to all the little guys. You're actually going to actively invest and you help them build their businesses. They need help. I mean,
Yeah.
giving someone a license and saying, look, we're going to put you in front of the line, go figure it out, is never going to work.
Could this get
Ever.
ugly? Could we see lawsuits?
It's got, yeah. I mean,
They
there's
already
always
have.
going to be lawsuits. Yeah.
Well, there's already 2 lawsuits against the OCM. Could we see more?
I would guarantee you there's going to be lawsuits moving forward. But I
Mhm.
mean, at the end of the day, is you can assure that the MSOs, the 8 license holders, most notably the MSOs that are set to benefit, they're going to have applications in hand on that opening date in October, ready to roll, and then they'll get their doors open the minute they get the okay.
Lucifer, good to see you, brother. Thanks for all the comments. Shout out to him. Writes, yeah, why not make an entry tier franchise that doesn't pay back but signs exclusive wholesale until they can supply themselves? Good point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would have done the social equity applicants, just give them all retail licenses.
Yeah.
Give them all retail licenses, give them a little bit of optionality. If they have cultivation experience and they have a cultivation plan, then let them do that. But like they should wade in before they go off into the deep end.
Yeah. John, good to see you. Writes, lads, crazy trading day. We want to highlight some of the notable names and what they did here today.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean it's
I could start with the
yeah.
LPs. The LPs in Canada that have been moving Canopy and Aurora Cannabis specifically, they after huge runs and huge volume profiles the last couple days, they started out down. Actually, Canopy gapped down a little bit, went up about 10%, and then just sank about 25-30% off that. And volume was still elevated. So I was looking mostly at the LPs because the MSOs were relatively flat. They're mostly within a 5% range.
Yeah.
And I think what we're seeing now overall in the dynamic, if you look at the ETF, we have sort of a tightening range, as Dan the chart man would say. It's like we have a lower high profile on the hourly bars and a higher low on the lower end of the hourly bars. So everything's kind of tightening and consolidating into a certain level. And that's usually
What is that?
associated with decreasing volume.
Can you break that down even more as to what that then means? If it's increasing and more, is that basically you're laying a foundation and a benchmark?
Yeah, it basically means that the price action is coming to equilibrium more or less. So the highs are getting lower and the lows are getting higher. So everything's kind of consolidated and volume is decreasing during that time. So the price action, at least in the near term, is reaching a equilibrium point where it's sort of narrowing within a range. At some point, something's going to break it out of that range, whether that's good news, good or bad, and it's going to go up or down and test support and previous resistance. So right now, I think we're in that. That's 2 straight days of down volume. Definitely a tightening range. Who knows how long this proceeds, but it's subject to headline risk. So yeah, we're probably going to remain consolidating until we get that headline risk.
Yeah. Anthony, what's your take on what Ben just provided?
I think he's spot on.
Yeah.
I like to see it. I like to see it basing and tightening that range. I put calls back on today, but $12 calls instead of $10 calls out in October. And then I'm going to start to build that position here over the next couple of sessions.
Oh,
Yeah.
you moved it up, eh? You moved your 10s
Yeah.
to 12s.
The price, the volume kicked up, and the pricing, the price, it was good value. It was good value on the contracts.
Huh. Interesting. What are other some notable names? I'm just bringing the chart in front of me right now.
I mean, it was great. Like we said, it was a great day for Columbia Care. Planet 13 traded up again. Sundial's finally coming to life, or SNDL, since I'm going to get beat for calling it Sundial. Was up 4.3%. Marimed in the green. Tilray, which I'm watching Tilray like a hawk. Tilray's like coiling. Like
Yeah.
it's one of the ones I'm watching as well.
Interesting
And then I guess
story yesterday with Brady, how he feels that everybody in the industry is playing checkers and he thinks Irwin Simon is playing chess. I know we touched on that, but one of the things
you've
that we
heard
alluded
that.
to
Yeah.
was just how going all in on beverages and how that is going to be the biggest, I would say, product in the overall industry in the coming years,
I
right?
mean, you saw my face when Brady started saying all that. I was laughing because it sounded like me on Trade to Black a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Irwin Simon's moves from a business standpoint are genius.
Yeah.
I think the Sweetwater acquisition gives him distribution in the United States. And I think alcohol is coming into this in a very big way. If you don't think alcohol is going to come into this, you are out of your goddamn mind.
Yeah.
Pharma does not care about cannabis. As much as everyone
At
wants to
all.
think they do,
At
they
all.
do not care. Alcohol is actively being cannibalized by cannabis on a month over month and year over year basis, and there is serious market share that is being eaten away from cannabis into into alcohol.
I
The
actually got
key
a message. Go ahead, Ben.
I'm saying the key here is establishing a national supply chain, and that's going to be the biggest challenge with Tilray right now. Until it's federally legal, it's going to be hard to do that. And in an industry that has like lower margins on that side of the business, on the beverage side, although cannabis, beverages could be higher than normal, but they're going
Yeah.
to need a national supply chain to really get going. And who knows how long that takes? But if we get Schedule 3, if we get safe, we're a lot closer than we used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had an institutional investor reach out to me today and say, if we get Schedule 3 on cannabis, who is best positioned internationally to either receive a Constellation type investment or eventual buyout? And his first response was Cureleaf. You bring up some pretty big names that could get involved on the beverage level, but do we see more investments, like a tobacco company coming in?
Yeah,
I
I mean,
can't.
I think you do. I think you'll see big tobacco, and I think you'll see big alcohol come in. I mean, I don't know off the top of my head like cigarette trends, but I would be willing to bet they're probably been in a downtrend year over year for some time now. I mean, the same thing in alcohol. Cannabis is a massive multi-billion-dollar global opportunity. The two companies that are levered to the EU, arguably the most, are Tilray, via the distribution company that they acquired in the Afri acquisition,
Yeah.
and Curaleaf via the EMAC acquisition and the other assets that Boris has rolled into Curaleaf. They're both positioned to benefit off of the European market. AB InBev is a German owned company,
Yeah.
so
I
the
don't think we're
writing's on
going
the
to see
wall.
it. We're not going to see it until we get national supply chains. That's the bottom line.
No,
So,
no, 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 not at
like we
all.
see in Canada, it's no coincidence that as we fully went legal, then that's when Molson Coors came in. That's when there's talks with the name eludes me right now with Afria at the time, but that
Yep.
didn't go through. But that's
Oh,
allowed
yeah,
it
yeah.
because there was a national supply chain that could be established in Canada for that type of product. We can't do it on a state to state basis. So I don't know if Germany is just big enough to do something like that. I don't even think the rules allow that at this point either. So a lot of
No.
talk about it. You're starting to see more talk of this, but I think it's still too early to really start thinking about investing because it could be a takeover opportunity or not. We're still a ways away from that.
Yeah, Europe's a tough market. I mean, Germany is it's going to be distributed through pharmacies.
Yeah.
I mean, Germany, the
100%.
EU, the EU is going to it's going to do what they do. They're probably going to wait for us as far as like legalization or recreational use across the country, and then we'll set the precedent, and then they'll follow. But I mean, Germany and the UK are going to be a very slow, calculated rollout that probably takes years for decent revenue to hit these companies' bottom lines.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ben.
No, I was just sort of spitballing here, but I wonder whether the move in Aurora Cannabis has got me. At first I thought there was no correlation, but they're the only real other company besides Curaleaf to have those assets in Germany, right? So it got me thinking maybe, and they also have some cultivation centers. They have one in Norway. I think they shut that down or they closed the size of it. But I wonder if they're an acquisition candidate in due course. If safe banking descheduling goes through and the equity rises in some of the MSOs, I wonder if one MSO would actually consider taking them out. I mean, usually they tend to go for accretive acquisitions to their balance sheet, and Aurora is definitely not that. But they're interesting at least because they have those assets in the EU that maybe some company could parlay.
Yeah.
Yep, that was the Pedanios acquisition from years back.
Yeah.
That's actually a good point. I don't know anything about Aurora. I haven't paid attention to them in years until their stock popped 2 days ago.
We've had some questions. Rescheduling. If this is rescheduled to a Schedule 3, will it eliminate state medical cannabis? Is this a myth or is this incorrect? You guys want to elaborate on that so some of our viewers can get a better understanding?
You'll eliminate medical cannabis?
Medical cannabis. It's a question.
How is that even?
I don't believe so. I mean, it's not. I think only fully descheduled would eliminate medical cannabis, from my understanding. I mean, it's still going to be a scheduled drug. It's just not fully on the restricted list, but it will still be scheduled and subject to that. So I don't see a bifurcation of both segments of the medical program in each state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've also talked about Big Pharma. Don Murphy has indicated they have no interest whatsoever in what the outcome of this industry is. But overall, just more and more people that we're speaking to over the past week, the sentiment that we continue to hear is just that we have something here, needless to say. But there's a lot of people, and I don't want to put the pom-poms on, but I just get the feeling that a lot of people that we have interviewed, and you can check it out who I'm referring to on our YouTube channel, they feel it's different this time, that this is real. Like we do have something here. And that screenshot that you guys sent me yesterday of the Twitter spaces that Boris Jordan was part of, SAFE will get marked up by October 6th. SAFE will get a Senate vote mid-October. SAFE will pass the Senate with 14 plus Republicans, and SAFE could get added to end of year must pass bills after it passes the Senate. What's your reaction to that?
I think it's great. I wouldn't act on that information. I mean, I think it's great, but like I said, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
If you want to be real, there's a much easier path for rescheduling versus safe passing. You have to go through the House and the Senate, and you have to go through the motions. There's already a group coming out of Illinois saying that there needs to be more of an emphasis on the F in fairness in SAFE to add more diversity and inclusion to the bill. That bill's not getting touched. I mean, there are serious roadblocks that I don't think they will, but they could happen for SAFE. Rescheduling, once the DEA deems it's sign off, and granted there'll be lawsuits, but at the same time, it's a much easier path versus SAFE.
Question from Lucifer. Do you guys think that Curaleaf's results with Europe coming to life will actively incite interest in Tilray? Tough to really gauge that.
Yeah, it's tough to gauge that, but I mean, I don't see a world where there's not interest in Tilray right now. I mean, Tilray is a name that institutions know. I mean, you talk to Tim Seymour, who's actively manages CNBS. I mean, he is big on Tilray. His institutional friends that are following the space all know Tilray. Tilray is a very popular name. I mean, it was the play that Peter Thiel invested in cannabis back in the day with Privateer Holdings when it originally came out. I mean, Tilray's a big name in the space. Say what you want about it. Say what you want about Irwin. Like, Tilray is a formidable player, and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. John, you wrote me, when will I have Slang Worldwide CEO John Manion back on? There's an idea. I could reach out to him relatively soon. We actually talked about them. Was that a month or 2 months ago? I haven't really followed them all that much.
Slang?
I like the company. Probably maybe about 2 months ago, I actually put out a tweet saying I purchased the company. I purchased a big block, something like 500,000 shares around that territory. It was at 2.5 cents. And I ended up getting out because I couldn't wait. It just after a few days of being in there, I was reminded of there was no exit liquidity. It literally would not trade, and it's kind of too bad because it's kind of burned investors all the way down over the past 4 or 5 years. And but I think it's a good turnaround story. I really do. I think they got some good dispensary assets in Vermont. So they're vertically integrated over there. They have their OPEN, which is very popular in Colorado. It's the number one selling product there. And they have a bunch of a good distribution chain of other products along with that. But it's really the dispensary assets in Vermont that they acquired last year that, and I think it's High Empire or something along those lines. But it's a really good story there, and that's a $250 million market. It's not
just the relationship.
MSO, it's not the biggest market, but it's a good market, and they own it.
But 13 million tourists every single year go to Vermont.
Slang is a slave to their
million.
Really?
Wow. Were they all skiing?
Of course.
The problem with Slang Worldwide is
do snowboarders smoke weed, Anthony?
A lot.
Ross Rebliati, the first gold medal snowboarder.
The problem with Slang Worldwide, though, is not the business. If I took away the name Slang Worldwide and you didn't see the financial engineering and the share structure and how the actual pipes are built, you would look at the business and be like, that is a business that I absolutely want to invest in. It is a good business. It's in good markets. They have good relationships. They have good distribution. I mean, it is a great business. The financial engineering sucks. That stock has gotten pounded from day one. With overhanging warrants, with cheap paper, with hundreds of millions of shares coming out of the gate. It just can't get out of its own way. No. That's what stopped me from buying it.
Yeah.
But now is a good time. And it's all about timing. Sometimes if you watch a business, and I feel very bad for investors who invest in a concept too early, and that was Slang Worldwide. Good business. Yeah. It had some hype early on. But it just got killed for the reasons Anthony mentioned. They also had like an edibles company that they were trying to purchase, and that took like a year to close. And there's a bunch of equity that was involved in that, like 85 or 100 million shares. It was a lot of it, and that created a lot of dilution on the stock and downward pressure. But I think now, if you were to look at it, they've really, really cleaned up their balance sheet over the past, I don't know, I'd say 1 or 2 quarters. And now was actually a really good time. Unfortunately, they have no investor base anymore because a lot of people have got burned along the way, and there's no liquidity. So, that's, I had it at the low, I guess. I could have, I didn't hold because the liquidity was an issue, but it is a good company. I hope we have the CEO on to explain what's up.
Speaking of a couple,
actually know Michael Mills quite well. He's a great dude. I mean, him and Tripp are doing a good job over at BAM. BAM's like the little engine that could of the sector. I mean, they're in Vegas, they were in Illinois, they've got New Jersey coming online. They're really good guys, and they're solid operators. I actually haven't talked to Michael in a while now.
We got to reach out. Tripp's such a great guy, isn't he?
Yeah, Tripp's awesome.
The guy that applied, a former hedge fund manager, applied for a $10 an hour job on Craigslist and literally started from the ground up and knows that industry and that business inside and out. 2 really good guys.
Yep.
Continue on this trend of stocks that from yesteryear that we haven't even brought up in a while. Anyone else come to mind? Let us know. Give us some comments. Are there any
Spam's one that I haven't thought about in a very long time.
Yeah. We've talked about in a while either is Glass House. Quite the facility out in California, Ben, with Kyle Kazan. You either love him or hate him. The facility's great, but it's just that black cloud of being in the California market that people are uncertain of, right?
Yeah, it's a company I always keep an eye on. I haven't invested and don't plan to right yet. I kind of always viewed Glass House as, a very investable company once interstate commerce becomes closer to reality. Because I think when it does, if cannabis ever becomes descheduled across the nation, becomes legalized, that is a prime takeout opportunity right there. One of the big MSOs, I think, are going to look at them and say, look, it's all set up. and move their cultivation over there because you can transfer it overstate, and that it's going to eliminate so much cost for all these vertically integrated cultivation centers in each individual state. Do it all in California where the conditions are perfect, and I think they're going to get taken out eventually. I think that's what Kyle is looking to do. He's taking the long-term view, and this is where it's all going, but we're not quite there yet. So
Yeah.
in the meantime, it's sort of on the peripheral view. It's a portfolio watch.
I mean,
Industry.
you gotta hope they survive until then.
Yeah.
Because I mean, their main narrative is interstate commerce. I don't see them surviving in Cali.
What's exciting to see, though, is like outside of all the business side, as far as this rescheduling, think of like how much this industry is going to be embraced by everyday citizens and the way they view it, if and when that does happen. Because we had a talk with Charlie earlier this week about Spotify opening up the doors to obviously cannabis. Twitter's done that already. Like you can really see that it's finally coming to fruition and the momentum that's starting to build and what this could possibly do if rescheduling.
There's one thing that I see as a corollary between a lot of people that are complaining about cannabis, especially being in markets like New York, and it's unfortunately the smell. People always complain like, "Oh, I can smell weed." Like, "Oh, there's like the weed smells all around."
Yeah,
that I don't know how we get past. We're not going to.
But then go back to Brady's point. He was out at an event 2 nights ago, and then what was that bottle that he had showed us?
Oh, the tincture. Yeah. It's the tincture. You can just add a couple drops.
Yeah. You don't smell, you don't stink, and you wake up the next morning with no hangover.
But people like smoking cannabis.
Of course.
I mean, people like smoking cannabis like they like smoking cigars. Like it's got certain flavor profiles, certain strains, like certain cannabis. Like cannabis tastes good when you're smoking it in concentrate or flower.
That's never going to go away. But as you create more options, that's the maturity of an industry. But all right, gents, what can we anticipate heading into tomorrow and the end of the Friday? What are you looking for?
I'm hoping there's going to be a continued strength trend in MSOS. I'm hoping we close the week higher. It'd be a little discouraging if we trade sideways or trade down from here, but I mean, we'll see. It's tough to tell because there's no obviously aftermarket trading in any of these names except for Canopy and Tilray and Aurora for the most part. So we shall see. I mean, we'll yeah.
I think we're going to get a tightening range until other headlines and news move the stock again. And I think for better or for worse, we're all at the subject of marijuana moment headline risk and headline reward. That's just the way it's going to be. I've commented today that we're actually in a very slow news cycle if you're not looking at it outside of just safe banking news and headlines, rumors. It's a very slow cycle. There's actually not much happening in the industry right now. It's it's post earnings. It's there's no new states opening up. There's no like actual moving news beside the headlines that you're getting on Capitol Hill. So we're just subject to whatever marijuana moment puts out, and hopefully it's good news. And we could jet at any time, and we could also follow a little bit at any time. So
hopefully we get some announcements from specific companies. But I saw on Twitter actually a smart move on behalf, and a shout out to the Terracin people, that they're having an investor day on Tuesday. Is it Tuesday, October 13th in Toronto? But
you took the words right out of my mouth. I was about to say that next. It was good to see.
Yeah. Had a call with them this morning. So it's
really good to see. And Lee, that's a very good point. I think we should cover the implications of the Garland memo moving forward tomorrow on the stream. I just like to look it up more in detail and read into it before we actually address it.
Bring up one last happy glass. Canada set the precedent. The world is moving forward in spite of the U.S. Not as splashy as when they catch up, but it is moving.
Canada. Oh, I'm assuming Canada set the precedent as far as legalization goes. I'm hoping they didn't set the precedent in how to run a cannabis business. So,
honestly, I
Lucifer, by the way, Verano is resubmitting, or I think I'm almost positive Verano's already resubmitted their application in Alabama and actually scored higher than the first time around.
What's this one too? Apparently Curaleaf started a small office in Sweden, is going back for a second run at Poland. Europe is starting to spark. Lucifer, where are you getting your information? You want a job?
People got to be cautious though on some of these jurisdictions. It's going to be a slow rollout, right? As we saw with Germany, right? Just a quick recall. I hate to
Yeah.
put the wet blanket on things, but
Yeah.
it was supposed to be a very liberal rollout for a while. People were expecting that, and then their parliament rolled that back, and now we're having something that's less than what it was supposed to be. And some of these countries haven't yet legalized yet, or not even really thinking about it seriously. So moderation, temper, long term thinking on this one, guys.
Killer Chip, you right. Respectfully disagree. Thinking vaping will be more prevalent than drinking. Both will be big. I hear you, and you make a valid point. Just a lot of the people that we're speaking to that are making a lot of big business decisions are, looking at beverage and quite possibly be the most lucrative opportunity within this industry. But vaping,
Oh,
I don't know.
did you? Lucifer actually said Boris talked about the Sweden office yesterday on Toby's Spaces.
Oh, did
So
he?
I'm assuming
Okay.
that's right from the horse's mouth.
And
I
in
know
terms
nothing.
of vaping, maybe Anthony, I know you are a cannabis user from times. Do you like vaping? I find it different than smoking. So if I'm going to do anything, I either like
Uh,
smoking or drinks. The drinks really impressed me the couple times that I've actually tried
so
them.
so I have a couple of vapes. They're mostly like the 710 like rosin pods. I won't smoke like the bullshit that most of the dispensaries sell or like the screw-on pods.
Yep.
But I prefer like concentrate, either rosin or hash or flour. You actually get to taste what you're smoking, and
But
Yeah.
I don't like the actual oil that they put in the vapes.
but health risk aside, is it just me, or is like smoking different than vaping? It's a different experience. I actually don't. I think the vaping experience is a little bit weaker, or it's a little bit different. Maybe
Yeah,
that's just
I
me. I
mean,
don't know.
they've always argued that vaping is a little bit healthier than smoking. Let's call a spade a spade. You're literally inhaling combusted plant matter. Like neither's good for your lungs.
Yeah.
I've never really bought into that argument.
Well, I think it all depends on which age demographic you're speaking to. But,
Yeah,
forget who wrote that again that talked about the vaping, what his handle was, but Killer Chip.
yeah.
I could be wrong, but if somebody who's 22, 23 years old likes vaping more than, say beverages or anything like that, that would not surprise me. But
No, they're all running around with those Nick sticks all day with the nicotine vapes everywhere. It's a natural segue.
yeah. All right, gents, this is good.
Did you guys see those Mexican aliens, by the way?
What was it?
That were the aliens that were all over the news?
No. What? I got
You
to
didn't see
Google
this? It was on CNBC.
I
It was on
I
CNBC
saw
this
it.
morning.
Yeah.
There was
I don't even get
two.
into
There were
this with
two. Yeah, there were two Mexican. There were two Mexican alien corpses that were 1,000 years old that were brought in.
Yes.
Brought in through Congress. And yes, Brian, I know that there's no combustion in vaping, but I mean, you're still inhaling a vapor into your lungs. I mean, neither way, it's good to be breathing anything other than air. Smoke and vapor are both bad for you.
Lucifer.
Okay, so what's your take on the alien thing? When I look at things like that, because there's so much fake news, I tend to not even pay attention to it. I just assume it's a psyop or some sort of
Yeah, it's
misdirection.
they both looked like ET, and they were about this big.
So ET didn't go home.
Yeah, I mean, I find it very hard to believe that if aliens ever come, they're going to have a spinal column and hands and feet and look like us. It's probably fucking impossible, just in the grand scheme of things. But yes, I mean, somebody in front of the Mexican Congress wheeled out two mummified aliens in these little boxes. So it was interesting to say the least, but short-lived. Hopefully it's out of the news cycle by tomorrow.
What world do we live in now?
We live in a world where there's AI, right? AI,
yeah.
people want to control the narrative, and people like there's very powerful behavioral psychologists who work with some of the top tiers of people who control the media, and they're trying to control in a lot of ways, in a lot of narratives, they're trying to control perception, right? And that's to create fear, that's to influence, and that's how you bring about agendas when you create fear.
Johns writes, Shad, Cowboys defense is on fire. What a spanking that was on Friday or Sunday night. Saw the
40
NFL power rankings. San Francisco, they said 2 teams above everybody else. San Francisco 1, Dallas 2. I don't know. Like, that was a pretty impressive win by the Cowboys. Can't take that away. But are they better than Kansas City? No.
Kansas City looked terrible too.
Well, no Travis Kelce, no Chris Jones. That's pretty big. But the Detroit Lions are no longer the Lions. Like, they're for real.
Nope. I got to listen to the Spaces of Boris was really talking about the debt and European expansion and everything. It must have been a pretty good one.
We'll have a listen. But anyway, let us know what you think as well. Appreciate all this feedback, the comments. If you like these live streams, it's great. We love interacting with you. Leave a comment below. Any companies you want us to cover. Some great names brought up here today that we brought up, and we can do some more research pertaining to that. For all you SNDL investors that are watching our channel, we put a feeler out there. Zach got back to us. He's looking at late September, early October for an actual interview time. So be patient. We've got feelers out there. And once we get confirmation dates, we'll let you know, and we'll get that all locked in. And we'll continue to obviously to reach out to a lot of big name people, and let us know, in the comments below as well. Any notable names that you want us to reach out to an interview, we'll get it done. At least we'll try. We got to get Air Wellness' CEO on as well.
Yep. That would be nice. Love to hear from the horse's mouth what's going on with Air.
Yeah. All right, gents. Enjoy the night off. Tomorrow, see how the trading day goes, and then back to Thursday night football. Week 2, NFL.
Yep. That would be nice. Thanks,
All right,
everybody.
guys. Thanks. Take care. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, guys.